So, I had planned to do videos on other matters, but it looks like the current hot topic of the day is going to be the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery, which happened in Brunswick, Georgia. So apparently, what happened was he was, and I'll link to an article below, but he was out running, he was jogging or otherwise running down the street, and on the basis of that alone, as far as I can tell, on the basis of that alone, a couple of hayseeds decided that he was responsible for a recent burglary, and so they went and shot him to death. Initially, charges were not pursued because apparently on a rather, what seems like a rather flimsy basis, which is that there was a claim that because they, and this is all in the article, had legally obtained the firearms and were pursuing a burglary suspect, that they had the right, somehow they were in the right in what they did, and so there was a question there. But now video evidence has emerged showing that in the encounter, they were pointing guns at or already pointing guns at Ahmaud Arbery. He attempted to go around the truck and keep running, and as he went around the truck, they began shooting at him, and at that point, he engaged in a physical altercation with one of them, as he was completely in the right to do because he was trying to defend himself. And so now they're thinking about convening a grand jury to pursue charges. This is absolutely unbelievable that there is even a moment's hesitation about whether or not to pursue charges with this. These two people have very clearly committed an act of vigilante violence and killed somebody on the basis of absolutely nothing. If you think that somebody is a suspect in any kind of robbery or burglary, you get there, you get a photo of them, you get their information, you hand it off to the police, and that's it. We have got, and this is coming right on the heel, around the time, apparently, of the anniversary of Trayvon Martin. I say apparently because I can't remember the exact date of when that happened, but nevertheless, it calls to mind a similar situation to Trayvon Martin. In that case, in the case of Trayvon Martin, people are sometimes surprised that I am on the side of Trayvon. It's like, look, I'm on the, I am on the side of Trayvon, and there's this weird thing where it's like people are like, well, you're a libertarian, and aren't libertarians supposed to feel this way about it? No, I feel, I establish my opinions on the basis of what seems logically correct. I think that, Amanda Knox is probably innocent, and Casey Anthony is probably guilty. And in this case, it seems apparent that, seems readily apparent, as in the case of Trayvon Martin, that these are gun-toting yahoos going on committing vigilante killings on the basis of nothing other than their own paranoia. So these men need to be prosecuted. They need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And people have got to finally, possibly, somehow learn the lesson that we do not exist in a society of vigilanteism. When the Trayvon Martin thing happened, what happened first? Well, first they tried to portray George Zimmerman as somehow some kind of noble figure, boldly and bravely trying to protect his neighborhood and all of this, and just the people that love the idea of any kind of vigilante justice being done just immediately start rubbing their nipples, and then they try to dig into Trayvon Martin's background and say, oh, well, he had all of this delinquent behavior in his background, so he was probably up to no good. None of that justifies what was done to Trayvon Martin, and as in this case, nothing justifies what these people did to Ahmaud Arbery and this father-son duo that shot him to death. I think it's very clear from the footage that they confronted him. The shots were fired, and then he engaged in a violent altercation with one of them. So there's no question about that. I mean, there can be no question about what happened. And I bring all of this up because I'm moving to block the light so I can see how much time I've been at this. Anyway, this is very important to me because, you know, Georgia, my state of Georgia, has become a battleground for a number of things recently, and it's really upsetting to me that we're becoming kind of a sociological petri dish. First, we had Brian Kemp's absurd abortion ban, or attempted abortion ban, and then we had then we've had his absurd handling of the COVID-19 outbreak, and now we get this. And you know, my position has been that I don't believe that systemic racism exists in this country. I do think, however, that as I've been clear about in the past, I do think that it's entirely possible for small-scale individual acts of hate to still occur, and certainly racism still exists on the individual level, and this is one of those cases where it cropped up. So if the government of the state of the government of the state of Georgia wants to make good on my previously standing conviction that systemic racism does not exist, then they will prosecute these guys and put them away, as well they should. I am very, very I'm very, very cautious as a person about invoking law enforcment. Police and law enforcement in general make me uncomfortable. So just the visceral gut level comfort that I have with the idea of invoking police and invoking law enforcement in this situation tells me, coupled with the evidence that's been presented so far, tells me that this is a very solid case against these guys, and I really am amazed that there is any hesitation now about prosecuting them. They should be prosecuted. They should be put on trial. And they should, in my opinion, be found quite guilty. So, anyway, what I am hoping for, though, is on the libertarian side of the fence, let's try to not do the crap that everybody did with Trayvon. Okay, let's try to not dig into Ahmaud Arbery's past and try to decide that he was some kind of degenerate or delinquent or something like that, as if his background could possibly justify the actions that these two people took. You know, it really is crucial to the existence of any society that we not descend into vigilantism. The minute we become a vigilante, and that applies to these guys, the shooters as well. They should be dealt with by the court system and by the police. They should not encounter any kind of vigilante reprisal or anything like that. The minute we descend into vigilantism, we lose a society, and that is crucial. I mean, as Jordan Peterson rightly pointed out, that's why the story of Cain and Abel is the first, after the Garden of Eden, is the first foundational, story. It's a metaphor, by the way, didn't literally happen, but it's the first foundational story laid out for the creation of society. You cannot have is that you protect the guilty and you protect the accused from vigilante reprisal. We cannot descend into that, and we cannot allow for that. So anyway, those are my thoughts.